After the business dinner, unable to find a rideshare service at the last minute, I activated the self-driving mode. Smart, take me home. Confirmed, I've set the navigation to home. Half an hour later, the self-driving mode brought me to an unfamiliar quiet neighborhood. Navigation destination, home. It sobered me right up. I was so angry. How was it that I didn't know when I suddenly acquired another home? Halfway through the business dinner, my husband suddenly received a call from an assistant. After hanging up, Marcus looked at me with an apologetic expression. Grace, there's a problem with a multinational collaboration. I need to head back to the company headquarters immediately. I'll leave things here to you. I frowned, but we only drove one car here, and you've been drinking. Marcus thoughtfully slipped the car keys into my hand. I can't let my wife take a taxi home this late, can I? I'll have someone from the company headquarters pick me up. You keep the car, and when the dinner ends, you can use the self-driving mode to get home. A warmth spread through my chest. But an hour later, the self-driving mode that was supposed to take me home dropped me off in a completely unfamiliar quiet neighborhood. Hearing the navigation's sickly sweet welcome home message, I was so angry it sobered me right up. This was my home? How was it that I didn't know? I trembled with rage, sitting in the driver's seat. It took me a while to calm down and clear my head. Picking up my phone, I calmly dialed my husband's number. Marcus, where are you? From my car window, I watched my husband's feigned calmness inside the mansion. I'm at the company headquarters. By the way, this multinational contract has some major issues. I'll be working late tonight and won't be coming home. You should get some sleep, dear, don't wait up for me. He hung up, and I watched with my own eyes as my husband's hand pressed heavily against his female assistant Lily's chest. It was indeed quite substantial. The transparent screen door revealed two tightly intertwined figures. The two of them, in their illicit encounter, were so impatient they couldn't even make it to a room. They were coupling right in front of the living room's floor-to-ceiling window. A loud crash of porcelain echoed from inside the mansion. Lily was pushed by Marcus, kneeling in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, her tight-fitting skirt hiked high. Marcus hadn't even had time to take off his pants, when, ugh! I shoved open the driver's side door and retched clumsily onto the ground. For the next half hour, I sat in the car, almost masochistically. The front of the car was pointed directly at the mansion's floor-to-ceiling window. I just sat there, watching my childhood sweetheart's husband press his innocent female assistant against the glass window, loving her with near madness. It felt like a gaping hole ripped open in my chest. I didn't try to mend that hole. Instead, I raised my fists and, with punch after punch, mercilessly smashed this heart to pieces. Just like my love for Marcus. When I loved him, I would go through hell and high water, wholeheartedly. Now that I no longer loved him, I wouldn't even leave a single broken fragment for him. The passion and madness inside gradually subsided. I calmly picked up my phone and dialed Marcus's number again. Husband, on our wedding day, you said you'd spend every day of the rest of your life with me. Miss one day, and you owe me a wish. On the other end of the line, Marcus's voice was slightly hoarse, with a hint of post-affair pleasure. Are you angry? What kind of gift do you want? I'll have someone send it over tomorrow. I sneered inwardly, but on the surface, I spoke coyly. I haven't decided what I want yet. Just owe it to me for now. But you need to give me a promissory note. Grab a blank sheet of paper right now and sign your name. I'll have the driver pick it up from the company headquarters. Marcus's laughed. On the other end of the line faltered, and his tone became difficult. Grace, it's too late tonight. How about tomorrow? I interrupted him coldly. No. I want it tonight. Either send the driver to get it, or I'll come to the company headquarters myself to find you. The call ended. I drove the car to a nearby side road, quietly watching the direction of the mansion. A few minutes later, Marcus emerged from the mansion, his clothes disheveled. Behind him, Lily wrapped her arms around his waist, looking aggrieved. Marcus, don't leave tonight, okay? Marcus naturally put his arm around the beauty's slender waist, ambiguously patting her pert, peachy bottom. He said flippantly, my little tease. I just made you cry, and you're still not satisfied? Lily blushed, her fair, slender arms gently wrapped around Marcus's neck, pouting playfully. You say I'm not satisfied? Are you satisfied? Don't think I don't know. You haven't touched that worn-out wife at home in 3 years. Whenever you get desperate, don't you always come to me? Marcus's expression suddenly changed. He dropped his smile and coldly pushed the beauty away from his embrace. Lily, you crossed a line. Grace is my lawfully wedded wife, the woman I intend to spend my life with. She's not your kind of woman to joke about. Lily's eyes reddened, and her emotions suddenly spiraled out of control. What do you mean, my kind of woman? If you think I'm dirty, but isn't Grace dirty too? If it weren't for her willingly getting into your father's bed back then, could you have taken down your father and become the CEO? Before she finished, a loud smack echoed as Marcus slapped Lily hard across the face. The next second, Marcus tightened his grip around Lily's neck, warning her with a distorted expression, "What are you? How dare you look down on my Grace? Lily, drop your ulterior motives. I'm warning you, if you dare let Grace find out about our relationship, you know what I'm capable of." Lily's face turned pale, her eyes wide with terror, tears streaming down her fair face, making her look especially pathetically pitiful. Marcus loosened his grip. His hand, which had been around Lily's neck, slowly moved down to her ample breasts, giving them a harsh squeeze. "My little tease, that's enough for tonight. Tomorrow afternoon, wear the lingerie I bought you, and come to my office." After left, I opened the driving history and deleted that segment. I called George, the driver, and had him go to the company headquarters to retrieve the blank sheet of paper Marcus had signed. Looking at the bold and sprawling handwriting of the 3 large characters, written, I suddenly burst into laughter, tears streaming down my face. "Marcus, your pledge is simply worthless, utterly meaningless." Lily was right, I truly was soiled, but had forgotten who was responsible for my defilement. Back then, Marcus's father had an affair with his secretary and even had an illegitimate son. That illegitimate son, whom Richard had protected so well, was only 5 months younger than Marcus. Eleanor, Marcus's mother, was repeatedly provoked and humiliated by the secretary, developing severe depression. Aunt's 15th birthday, she died by carbon monoxide poisoning. Less than a month after Eleanor's death, Richard brought the secretary and the illegitimate son home. 15-year-old Marcus, hating his father's marital infidelity, defied Richard repeatedly, nearly being beaten to death by him. Finally, Richard used sending his son abroad to study as an excuse, effectively exiling Marcus. During those years, Marcus was abused by his stepmother abroad, often going hungry and cold, and nearly poisoned to death by nannies his stepmother hired several times. In his most desperate 2 years, to avoid being poisoned, Marcus had to secretly rummage through trash cans, competing for food with homeless people abroad. Back then, my parents gave me $1,000 allowance each month. I kept $300 for myself, sending every last penny of the rest to Marcus, who was struggling with his studies overseas. After returned, he joined the company headquarters to contend for power with his illegitimate half-brother. To support him, I neglected my own family business, staying by Marcus's side as his assistant. Using my identity as the heiress of the Fu family, I forced Marcus's cunning and manipulative stepmother to refrain from harming him further. But I never imagined that Marcus, whose eyes were already blinded by hatred, would, for the sake of revenge and to oust Richard, actually use me as a pawn in his game. Marcus found me dirty, but had he forgotten who had defiled me? 3 years ago, Marcus's illegitimate half-brother, to sabotage my relationship with Marcus, had someone put an aphrodisiac in my wine glass during a family dinner. Marcus could have stopped it, but he turned the tables on him, deliberately watching me drink that spiked red wine. And then, he watched with his own eyes as I was dragged into the master bedroom by a drunken Richard. That night was a nightmare I would never forget for the rest of my life. Although intervened just in time, nothing actually happened between Richard and me. But the sight of being caught in the act by my husband, lying in bed with my father-in-law, made me completely break down on the spot. Afterwards, I wildly punched and kicked Marcus, savagely biting off a piece of flesh from his arm. Yet, with reddened eyes, held me tightly and swore he would get revenge for me. His way of getting revenge for me was to use this scandal, which was enough to ruin Richard's reputation, to force him into early retirement and give up the CEO position. When learned that the drug in the wine was personally administered by his second wife and beloved younger son, he furiously divorced the secretary, kicked his younger son out of the house, and stripped the illegitimate son of his inheritance rights. Marcus killed 2 birds with one stone, gaining both the CEO position and eliminating his illegitimate half-brother, becoming unrivaled in influence for a time. As for me, the victim, all I got was Marcus's guilt, and 3 consecutive years of a sexless marriage. After that day, Marcus wished he could lay all the best things in the world at my feet. Yet, he never touched me again. I always thought Marcus didn't initiate intimacy with me because he was worried I'd be triggered and remember that night. But now, I suddenly understood. How could a normal man in the prime of his life possibly have no desires? He simply had no desire for me anymore. He transferred all his desires to that gorgeous female assistant named Lily. holding the documents a private investigator had just sent me. I froze the moment I turned to Lily's ID photo from her first day of work. No wonder Marcus, who always prided himself on his integrity, couldn't resist repeatedly succumbing to this young female assistant. It turned out that Lily, in her early 20s and without makeup, bore a striking resemblance to me when I was younger. That was when Marcus and I were at our most challenging point. To deal with those cunning old executives in the business world, I had just taken off my school uniform and put on sharp business attire. I deliberately made my makeup appear more mature and older, hoping to gain credibility in the marketplace. Back then, every day after I removed my makeup, Marcus would hold me and kiss my bare face repeatedly. We would sigh about the fleeting nature of youth, promising each other that once Marcus reclaimed everything that belonged to him, we would definitely go back to our middle school, wearing our old school uniforms, and take another couple's photo. Later, Marcus stepped on my back to finally reclaim everything that was his. But the one wearing a school uniform, reliving our past with him, had become another woman. A few photos suddenly fell out of the folder. The photos were a bit blurry, as if they were screenshots from surveillance footage. In the photos, Marcus, wearing a Westwood school uniform, pressed Lily, also in a Westwood school uniform, with a high ponytail and dressed to resemble me by about 70%, onto a desk in the last row of a classroom. Lily's school uniform skirt was hiked up to her waist, the buttons of her uniform long gone, revealing her impressive figure. Marcus was pressed behind her, his expression intoxicated, his movements broad and unrestrained. There was no need to guess what the two of them were doing in the very classroom where Marcus and I used to study. My stomach suddenly churned. I rushed into the bathroom, leaned over the sink, and finally threw up every last drop of the red wine I had drunk that night. Until my stomach was completely empty, I lifted my head, looked at the ghostly pale woman in the mirror, and suddenly burst into maniacal laughter. Marcus, you were the one who pushed me into this muddy swamp with your own hands. Now you've climbed out by stepping on my back, and yet you find me dirty? I'm not even dead yet, and you're already in such a rush to find a replacement? Too bad. I'm not some delicate lily. Marcus, I could willingly step into that swamp for you. And I can just as easily drag you down with me. Wiping the stains from the corners of my mouth, I dialed a number I thought I'd never contact again. Caleb, would you be interested in making a deal with me? Caleb didn't trust me. So, I sent him the photo of Marcus and Lily, seeking thrills in the classroom. Caleb replied instantly, tomorrow night at 7, the cafe, in person. After hanging up, Marcus, who had been gone all night, finally returned. In one hand, he carried my favorite crab roe soup dumplings, and in the other, a delicate bouquet of pure white lily of the valley. A small bouquet of lily of the valley like this, at this time of year, could cost as much as an average person's monthly salary. Marcus D. I'd give me the best things, just as he had once promised. The title of CEO's wife, 35% of the Zhong's shares, and countless pieces of jewelry and daily surprises. I believed he still loved me. He just didn't touch me anymore. But who was responsible for all of this? Looking at Marcus's almost hypocritical tenderness, a wave of nausea swept through me. Such a pure and flawless bouquet of lily of the valley, wasted in this man's hands. I casually tossed the flowers onto the table and didn't even open my favorite crab roe soup dumplings. Noticing my unusual behavior, Marcus's gentle smile faltered slightly, and he looked at me cautiously. Grace, what's wrong? Are you too tired from last night's socializing? It's my fault. If I hadn't been in such a rush to return to the company headquarters to deal with that multinational contract, I wouldn't have left you alone at the dinner. I sneered inwardly. Rushing back to handle a contract? Or rushing to have an affair with his hot female assistant? Seeing that I still remained silent, Marcus knelt down on one knee, squatting in front of me, looking up at me like a pitiful pug trying to please its master. Wife, tell me what I did wrong. I promise I'll change. I lowered my head, stared at him for a moment, and then suddenly smiled. Marcus, do you remember what you told me the second year after you returned to the country? Marcus's expression stiffened. What are you talking about? I suddenly felt ridiculous. He had forgotten he even loved me, so how could he remember a casual remark he made 7 years ago? Leaning back on the couch, I sighed indifferently, nothing much. I was just looking for something last night and stumbled upon our middle school yearbook. It just made me remember that you still owe me a couple's photo in school uniforms. Marcus smiled, revealing a charming dimple on one side of his cheek. I thought it was some big deal. So it's just that? Wife, wait here. With that, Marcus quickly ran back to the car. When he re-entered the house, he was carrying a bag from the dry cleaner. Opening the bag, it conspicuously contained the 2 school uniforms he and Lily had worn in the photos. Marcus, thinking I knew nothing, continued to boast, "Look, wife, the school uniforms you always wanted. I actually bought them a while ago. Knowing you're a clean freak, I even specially sent them to the dry cleaner to be washed. It's just that I've been so busy lately, otherwise I would have taken you back to school for photos already." I cut off his incessant boasting, pointing to the school uniform shirt and feigning surprise. "Where did you buy these school uniforms? The quality is so poor. The buttons have even fallen off." Marcus's smile froze. He picked up the women's school uniform shirt, and indeed, 3 buttons were missing. Of course, the buttons couldn't be found. In that photo, the 2 people, in their haste, didn't even have time to take off their clothes, tearing open the front of the shirt directly. The fallen buttons scattered across the floor. Just like my marriage with Marcus. A complete disaster. No going back. Seemingly guilty, Marcus didn't try to force that set of school uniforms on me again. He gave a dry laugh and casually tossed the school uniforms, along with the dry cleaner's bag, to Martha. "Take them out and throw them away." Then he said, trying to appease me, "The quality of online purchases isn't good. Later, I'll find a studio to custom make some for you." I didn't commit one way or another, just kept him talking aimlessly until the people I had arranged had installed a hidden camera in his CEO's office. As it approached noon, Marcus gradually became distracted. I deliberately asked Martha to make a few extra dishes. "Husband, join me for lunch, please?" Marcus's phone suddenly rang. He quickly silenced it, standing up from the sofa like a thief. "Wife, I just remembered there are still things to do at the company headquarters. Be good, eat lunch by yourself. Tonight, your husband will treat you to a lavish dinner." When he left, Marcus specifically chose the fastest sports car. I smiled faintly until the blue sports car was out of sight. Only then did I lower my head and, expressionless, clicked open the surveillance footage of the CEO's office. Marcus appeared shortly after, and indeed, he had urgent business. So urgent he didn't even have time to take off his clothes. Lily's figure was seductive, and what she was wearing was the exact same lingerie I wore on my wedding night with Marcus. The scene was unbearable to watch. Revolting. I suppressed my nausea, downloading and saving the footage clip by clip. Just as the 2 were about to reach the final step, a mischievous impulse struck me. I called Marcus's office. Marcus, locked in a desperate embrace, impatiently swatted the phone off the desk and onto the floor. I then dialed his phone. Seeing wife on the caller ID, Marcus froze. He shoved Lily, who was straddling him, into the bathroom and answered my call. I feigned surprise. "Husband, are you working out? Why are you so out of breath?" Marcus paused, then said casually, "I had a client meeting, but they said there was traffic. I was bored, so I did some push-ups." I smiled silently. Marital infidelity, doing push-ups on a naked secretary. "Marcus, what's the difference between you now and the father you once hated so much?" I hung up the phone and called the Fu family's top-tier lawyer. "I need you to do 2 things for me. First, find out how much my husband has spent on his personal assistant, Lily, over the years. Prepare to sue Lily. I want every single penny of that money back. Second, prepare a divorce agreement for me. Remember, I don't want the Jiang shares. I only want all the savings and real estate under Marcus's name." In the evening, Marcus, who had spent the afternoon fooling around with his female assistant, called, looking completely satisfied, to invite me to dinner. Looking Caleb slowly walking towards me, I smiled and said, "Another time, perhaps. I'm meeting a friend for coffee tonight." Marcus paused for a second, then immediately transferred $30,000 to me. I couldn't help but smile. If knew that the money he transferred to me would be used to buy coffee for his most hated illegitimate half-brother, his expression would surely be priceless, wouldn't it? My cooperation with Caleb went smoother than I expected. I already knew that he and his mistress-turned-stepmother wouldn't give up the Jiang, that golden opportunity, so easily. As expected, Marcus's cunning and manipulative young stepmother had, at some unknown point, reconnected with the old man. Richard, unbeknownst to Marcus, had also quietly transferred the 15% of Jiang shares in his possession to Caleb's name. I sold my 35% of the Jiang shares to Caleb, with only one condition. On the day of the shareholders meeting, I want all the shareholders present to see this video. I took a USB drive from my bag and gently pushed it across the table to Caleb. On the USB drive was the entire recording of Marcus's illicit rendezvous with Lily in the CEO's office that afternoon. I wouldn't just drag Marcus off his CEO's throne. I would also subject him to public humiliation. I would make him suffer a disgrace 10,000 times more painful than mine. Caleb took the USB drive and left in a hurry. However, as I was leaving, I coincidentally ran into Marcus and Lily. Lily was wearing a pure white dress, her long hair draped over her shoulders, her fair, slender arms tightly linked through Marcus's arm. The moment he saw me, Marcus reacted as if he'd been electrocuted, hastily pushing Lily, who was clinging to him, away. Lily, wearing high heels, stumbled awkwardly and fell to the ground. A commotion of onlookers erupted around us. Marcus's face turned ashen. He rushed over and grabbed my hand. "Grace, don't misunderstand. It's not what you think. I brought Lily here to meet a client, and she sprained her ankle. I was just kindly helping her up." Having said that, Marcus turned his head and gave Lily a threatening glare. Lily bit her lip, her face showing humiliation, and reluctantly nodded at me. "Grace, I'm sorry. I'm so useless, spraining my ankle just by wearing high heels, and having to trouble my senior schoolmate to help me." "Senior schoolmate? That's quite intimate," I said, looking at both of them with a half-smile. Marcus's face changed. He shot a harsh glare at Lily. "How many times have I told you? Outside, you address each other by your titles." He turned and offered me an ingratiating smile. "Wife, don't mind her. She's just a young girl, doesn't know any better. But actually, it's not wrong for her to call me senior schoolmate." "Grace, you didn't know, Lily also graduated from our middle school." Watching desperately trying to justify himself, I let out a giggle. No wonder she was wearing our middle school uniform. So she really is our junior schoolmate. Marcus froze, his face suddenly changing dramatically. "Grace, you've seen Lily in her school uniform?" Looking at Marcus's increasingly pale face, a wave of sadness washed over me. He and I, childhood sweethearts, grew up together, once trusting each other enough to cover each other's backs. When did we become so suspicious and testing of each other? Suddenly, everything before me felt utterly meaningless. I opened the Hermes bag Marcus had given me, pulled out a stack of photos, and flung them hard at his face. "You want to know when I saw Lily in her Westwood school uniform? Marcus, when you made her wear my school uniform, and had her on the desk where I used to do my homework, doing that with her, weren't you thinking about how thrilling it would be if I found out?" "Marcus, you truly disgust me." I no longer looked at him, turning and walking away quickly. Caleb should have already started his move. Staying with this man for another second made it impossible for me to breathe. As I turned the corner of my eye unconsciously caught a glimpse behind me. Marcus's hands trembled as he clutched the stack of explicit and outrageous surveillance photos. All the onlookers in the restaurant stood up, craning their necks, staring in shock at the photos scattered on the ground. Some even quietly pulled out their phones. Lily, her face pale, was on the ground, frantically trying to pick up the scattered photos. I sneered inwardly. So, she also knew that being the other woman, sleeping with another woman's husband, was shameful? When she was fooling around with my husband in the office, wearing my identical lingerie, why didn't she consider that this day would come? Caleb acted quickly. After the share transfer procedures were completed, he immediately convened a shareholders meeting in the name of the Zhang's largest shareholder. Marcus, upon receiving the news, could hardly believe his ears. His phone rang incessantly. I let him stew for 3 full hours before leisurely answering the call. Marcus's tone was angry, despairing, and somewhat incredulous. "Grace, the 35% of shares Caleb holds, did you sell them to him?" I nodded pleasantly, "Yes." "Why? You clearly know that Caleb and I are mortal enemies. You gave 35% of the company headquarters shares to Caleb. Aren't you cutting off my retreat?" I laughed. "Marcus, yes, I am cutting off your retreat. You're the one who said you'd only ever love me in this life, and if you broke that vow, you'd end up impoverished and die a miserable death. What, now that your vow is coming true, are you scared?" There was a moment of silence on the other end, then Marcus said to me in a hoarse, pleading voice, "Grace, I know I wronged you with Lily. If you're unhappy, I'll fire her immediately. I'll give her a sum of money, send her abroad, and make sure she never comes back. I swear, from now on, I'll only have you." "Marcus, it's too late." I interrupted his vow. "Sin. See, you know I've been a clean freak since childhood. You should also understand that I won't want a man who's been sullied. After all, when you first hired Lily to the company headquarters and kept her by your side as a substitute, wasn't it also because you found me dirty?" I hung up, then calmly called Martha, the housekeeper, and the driver, instructing them to pack all of Marcus's belongings and deliver them to the mansion where he used to meet Lily. The driver was bewildered. "Madam, where is the address for Mr. Marcus's other house?" I pointed to the car Marcus had just bought. "Drive this car. Use the self-driving mode and navigate home." Just a few days ago, this very car had led me to discover Marcus's second home. Now, by sending Marcus's things to that home, it was, in a way, returning them to their rightful place. As a former major shareholder of the company headquarters, I was invited to attend the shareholders' meeting the next day. Caleb seemed to have been prepared for a long time. He had no intention of letting Marcus off the hook. As soon as the shareholders' meeting began, an explicit video of Marcus and his female assistant freely indulging themselves in the CEO's office appeared on the projector. Lily shrieked on the spot, "Turn it off. Turn it off now. I order you to turn it off immediately." Caleb scoffed. "You, Leo, order me, the biggest shareholder of the Jiang? Mr. Marcus's special assistant, are you? In the name of the company headquarters' largest shareholder, I declare you fired." Lily looked towards Marcus, pleadingly, like a chicken with its neck wrung. Unfortunately, at this point, Marcus was already in such dire straits that he couldn't even help himself. His face flushed red, his lips trembled, and his eyes were fixed desperately on me. "Grace, you gave Caleb these videos too, didn't you? After all we've been through as husband and wife, do you truly wish me dead?" I looked at him in surprise. "Marcus, when you left me alone at the dinner to go fool around with your female assistant, when you weren't even willing to have lunch with me and rushed back to the company headquarters to have an affair with your female assistant, you should have foreseen this day, shouldn't you? You didn't really think that after all your betrayals and deceptions, I would still fight to the death to protect your position as CEO, like I did 3 years ago, did you?" I stepped closer to Marcus, leaning into his ear and whispering, almost viciously, "Marcus, accept reality. The who once loved you more than her own life has been killed by your own hands. The standing before you now despises you to the core. She wishes you dead." Marcus's face gradually turned whiter, inch by inch, his lips parted, unable to utter a sound. He knew that between him and me, it was truly over. Without me, his once strongest backing, Marcus's career seemed like a grand mirage that scattered with a single gust of wind. With my support, Caleb rose to become the Jiang's largest shareholder and immediately, in the name of the major shareholder, dismissed Marcus as CEO. Marcus tried to use the last 10% of shares he held to turn the tide. How could I possibly give him a chance to make a comeback? With a single lawsuit, I took Marcus and Lily to court, suing for illegally transferring marital assets through covert means, suing the other woman to return the marital assets that belonged to me. The luggage I had packed and sent to Marcus was seized by court order before he even had a chance to unpack it. Lily, furious and hateful, after I blocked her, actually changed her number and sent me an ultrasound image. "Grace, I'm pregnant with Marcus's child. If you drop the lawsuit, I can convince Marcus not to divorce you. In the future, our child can even care for you in your old age. After all, Marcus stopped loving you a long time ago. He won't even touch you, so you're destined to never have children in this life. You're doing thin. Gs so ruthlessly now. Aren't you afraid Marcus will actually divorce you?" Her bizarre line of reasoning made me laugh out of anger. "Lily, did you get pregnant and throw your brain into your belly to serve as a placenta? I'm only 28, in my prime childbearing years. If won't touch me, can't I just find another man? You don't seriously think all the men in the world are dead, and only Marcus is left, do you?" The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. After hanging up, I unhesitatingly forwarded the recording of my call with Lily, along with the ultrasound image she sent, to my lawyer. With this, Marcus's marital infidelity was thoroughly proven. Cornered from all sides, Marcus came to me again, begging me to help him one last time. I looked at him coldly. "Help you one more time? And then, just like 3 years ago, after I helped you secure the CEO's throne, you'd turn around, find me dirty, and secretly keep a female assistant as my substitute? Marcus, I'm not stupid. I won't fall into the same trap twice. Or, you can go ask your beloved female assistant if she's willing to take the fall for you, just like I did 3 years ago." Marcus's hypocrisy, selfishness, coldness, and callousness were now laid bare before my sharp gaze. He staggered back 2 steps, looking at me with almost desperate eyes. "Grace, can we really not start over? Just say the word, and I'll immediately make Lily abort the illegitimate child she's carrying. Let's start over. This time, I won't despise you, and you won't despise me. We'll just pretend none of this ever happened. We'll have another child, no, 2 children. Just like we planned before, a boy as the older brother, a girl as the younger sister, and the brother will always protect his sister, okay? I stepped back 2 paces, looking at him with disgust. Marcus, I suddenly understand you a little better now. You've been sleeping with Lily for 3 years, you're already soiled. Reeking. Rotted. I reel. Why don't want to touch you, not even with a single finger. That night, Marcus stood outside the mansion all night until dawn before leaving. He seemed to have accepted his fate. He didn't hire a lawyer to fight me in court again. He accepted the divorce agreement I had written on that blank sheet of paper. I took all the savings and real estate under his name. The mansion, luxury cars, and various luxury goods Marcus had given to Lily were all reclaimed by my lawsuit. And over these past 3 years, the money Marcus had spent on Lily, all totaled, amounted to a staggering $4 million. Lily couldn't repay the money and didn't want to go to jail, so she could only beg Marcus, forcing him to sell off the last bit of shares he held. She thought Marcus wouldn't let her go to jail, considering the child she was carrying. Unfortunately, this time, it was her turn to personally experience Marcus's selfishness and ruthlessness. Back then, to bring down Richard, Marcus didn't even bat an eye when he cast aside me, his childhood sweethearts, his wife who had endured hardships and struggled alongside him. What's more, for Marcus, Lily was just a stand-in he used to satisfy his desires when he didn't want to touch me. Facing desperate pleas, Marcus refused without a second thought. Lily, if it weren't for you, my wife wouldn't have divorced me, and she certainly wouldn't have sold the company's shares to my sworn enemy just to get back at us. You ruined me like this, and you still have the nerve to ask for my help. Marcus's cruel and heartless words completely shattered Lily's last shred of hope. In that moment, it seemed she finally remembered that she was not only Marcus's kept woman but also his personal assistant. Lily, with her heavily pregnant belly, started a live stream online, publicly accusing Marcus of over a dozen charges, including multiple instances of illegal stock manipulation and tax evasion during his tenure as CEO of the Jiang. She probably never imagined that it wouldn't be the police who found her first, but a furious Marcus. An enraged Marcus no longer showed the tenderness and affection he had displayed during their affair. In front of all the viewers on the live stream, he punched Lily, sending her crashing to the ground. Then, he straddled her, raising his fist and brutally slamming it again and again into Lily's stomach. Lily let out a piercing scream, and blood flowed across the floor, soaking her skirt. By the time the police responded to the public's frantic calls and rushed to the scene, Lily had been beaten to within an inch of her life, barely clinging to her last breath. Marcus was arrested on the spot. Lily was rushed to the hospital and underwent emergency treatment for a day and a night, but ultimately, they couldn't save her. 2 lives lost. In front of hundreds of thousands of live stream viewers, Marcus had personally murdered his mistress, a woman who was even carrying his unborn child. A month later, Marcus's verdict was announced, the death penalty, to be carried out immediately. Before his execution, Marcus requested one last meeting with me. I refused, sending him back only one message: may we never meet again, in this life or any other. Later, I still received a letter from prison. Reportedly, it was Marcus's final testament. I looked at the envelope Leo had placed on the desk and immediately felt that the Wangwallywood desk itself had been defiled by Marcus. I didn't open the letter. Instead, I told Leo to throw it, along with the desk, into the trash. Leo pressed his palms together, looking at me pathetically. Grace, actually, my nickname is Trash. Please throw this desk at me. I later heard that my new assistant, Leo, used that defiled Wangwallywood desk to acquire a small apartment. Later, this sunny, handsome assistant, Leo, who stood 6 feet tall, became the father of my child. I never remarried. Just as I told Lily, when you're a woman worth billions, if you NT children, does it really matter who the father is? Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.